Hello everyone, and welcome back to this examination of all these great photos and documents I got from my sister and ultimately from my dad. This is the third and final day, and what I want to show you today includes a lot of really cool historical documents and bulletins and brochures and stuff like that from some of my grandma and grandpa's acting and opera work, and as well as a lot of just contemporary photos of different family members. So let's continue on with this. Now this, remember I told you that I had a great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather or something that was a teacher at UC Berkeley. His name was Edward Z. Rowell. He's also the one that changed the name from Zbytovsky to Rowell. And he was a college professor, and this was a tribute written for him upon his death in 1975. Now I'm very interested in this. I'm not even sure what this is. I don't think it's even written in English, but check out some of this printing. Yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to figure out what that says. And here's some more very, very old printing, very faded. Looks like somebody made a Xerox of that one. And this looks like some sort of a document, and I'm not even sure what that is. But it's got like a kind of cool little stamp on it. It says 12/2, looks like 81, but I don't think that's 1981. That's probably 1881. Look at how old that document is. This is a document of one of my relatives named Nicholas Cray when they became a citizen of the United States in 1886. You can see why I'm going to probably want to frame some of this stuff, right? Family register, Nicholas Cray, born 15 May 1851. Wow. Our children, Joanna Elizabeth Cray, born 3 September 1875. Very cool. Definitely want to keep that. This looks like another family register. Probably a continuation of the previous one, right? They look like the same document. And it looks like somebody actually did translate this. Anna Margarita Brocky born Cray, born on 15 June 1877. Yeah, very cool. And this is an announcement, I think, of Edward Zbytovsky. See, it's even hard to say. I don't blame him at all for changing his name. This is his announcing that he volunteered for a salary of $1 a year to serve in the war. That's definitely something you got to hang up, right? There's a picture of William G. Brocky. That's my grandmother's father. Then we're getting into some kind of old, crazy, stupid-looking kids. Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that guy. That guy looks like a dork, right? Not the kid, the one holding him. Okay, that's my Grandpa Wallstrom, and that's me on the left. My cousin Brian on Grandpa's lap. My sister Brenda right over his left shoulder, and my cousin Jana standing next to her. Another dorky-looking kid. Now this is a family reunion photo from 1987. My mom was part of a huge family. You know, my dad's family was relatively small, but my mom's family was massive. Her father was one of 12 siblings, and a couple of his siblings also had really large numbers of kids. That was just something that was really kind of done in the early, you know, 1900s, when you had farms, because you needed people to help you with the farm. So that's our recent survivors. Well, not that recent, not if it's 87. That was almost 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Mother of William G. Brocky. So that's my grandmother's mom again. Yeah. That's my sister and my parents and her husband, and of course me. This is a photo I remember seeing all the time. This was, I think my dad had this in his office. That's his parents at their house in California, or in Minnesota, St. Paul. Yeah. Okay, now that's a photo of Galen Rowell and his mother. And I got to look at some of these here. Okay, so not sure exactly where that person, that's Annie Rourke or something looks like, and her husband. I don't know where they fit into the grand scheme of things, but that's family. That's a photo of my mom, undated, but that looks relatively recent. That's a photo of my uncle, my dad's brother, from when he was very, very young. That's a photo of my mom and my dad from, I don't know, looks like maybe some sort of a Christmas pageant or something. That's my grandfather, my dad's dad, shoveling something up. I don't know where or when. A good family photo of my mom's parents. So that's Harold and Signe Wallstrom. And this is obviously a trip from when my parents went to Alaska, because they're riding with the sled dogs. So that was kind of fun. And at my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, they actually got into their wedding clothes again and posed for a photo. And so this is that photo. I've seen this photo many times. They had this in their house, and my parents have it in their house, or had it in their house. This is actually a photo of my parents and my aunt and uncle from my mom's side. The man in the right rear there is my mom's brother, and then the woman in front of him, that's Sally, his wife. And then of course my mom and my dad. Another photo of my grandparents in their older years. And then we're back to this again. This one probably goes with that other photo I looked at a few minutes ago. That's Annie Rowell Moreland and children. It's not Roland, it's Rowell. Yeah, okay. You'd think I might know my own name by now, huh? This is something I kind of found. It's very, very faded. You probably can't even read it. It's dated November 2, 1948. It says, "Dear David, best wishes for a happy birthday, Grandma." So that was for my dad, November 2nd, 1948. That was his 10th birthday. That's a photograph of my father when he was 5.5 weeks old. An old family photo. I see my grandma and grandpa in there. My grandpa right there, and my grandmother there. And let's see. Okay, and it's got a list of who everyone is back here. So that's my aunt and uncle, Paul and Sally, at their wedding in, what was it, 1965 or something like that. Okay, this one, it isn't labeled, but I've seen this picture before. This is, I believe, my great-grandmother and great-grandfather on my mom's side. That's my grandpa's mom and dad on my mom's side. And that's my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side when they were young. I think that's probably like their wedding photo. Yeah, see, we're getting into the wedding photo section now because that's my dad's parents at their wedding, and my parents at their wedding, and me when I was about 6 months old or 8 months old, something like that, February '65. So yeah, eight or 10 months old. This one's kind of cool. It needs to be restored. I'll probably have to scan it a little bit. This is a Junior Achievement Award, and that's my dad right there when he was a kid. Let's see, does it have a year on the back of it? Well, it says property of David Roll, and I guess it's autographed by everyone that's in the photo. But I don't see a year on that, but that looks like he's probably junior high or something like that. Another photo of my grandparents. A big family reunion. Remember I told you my mom's side of the family is just massive. So that's my mom right there. That's my Uncle Paul in the back. And I recognize a few of these people. I've probably met them all, but you know, that family is just so big it's hard to keep up with. And this is a photo of my grandmother right there and some of her friends. And all the names are on the back, but it doesn't say specifically who all the people were. This is a photo of my mom and her parents from like 1980. Okay, this is a photograph of my grandmother from one of her publicity shots from one of the plays that she was in. Check out that dress. I got a couple more photos, I think, of that dress. And I believe that is, it says save on the back. I believe that is my great-grandmother and great-grandfather, my grandmother's parents. Okay, that one isn't listed who it is, but I think it's the same guy as this guy. So yeah, that's Edward Roll again. You know, got all these great pictures of all these old family members. You know, they're long gone. So that one says Ed and Margaret Roll. So that's obviously later on in their life. Okay, that's Anna Roll, so that's their kid, or one of their kids. Let's see here. On the ferry between San Francisco and Oakland, when Edward and Margaret were married in 1936, and my grandmother is in that photo. That is her right there. And then we get some photos of, that's my grandfather in one of his opera roles, and another photo from another show. Like I said, some of this stuff I'm going to have to put into new folders and stuff like that so we can preserve that. That's my grandfather, obviously, on my dad's side. Real intense stare, isn't it? Another photo of him. Emma Piker, she's a Spitovsky. I'm assuming it's the younger one on the right, but I don't know. I'll have to check that out. Edwin Z. Roll, Adolf Spitovsky, and Robert Roll. So that's my grandfather and his brother, and I'm guessing their father. Because see, Edwin was the one that changed the name from Spitovsky to Roll. So his father kept the Spitovsky name. And you'll notice that both of my great uncle and my grandfather kept Z in their middle name. That was for the Spitovsky. Another photo from my grandfather, and another one from 1933. Later on in life, 1962, 1972. 1957. I'm guessing that's one of the churches that they performed at. Oh, no, actually, that's the church they were married in. That's cool. Okay, here's another program from a recital or a concert that they did. Let's see who's in here, if we can find some names. I think I thumbed through this and there was one of the pages that had like the cast in it, so. Yeah, there's Grandpa Roll. Samson and Delilah. A lot of great stuff there. There's Grandma Brocky, Grandma Roll. Another brochure, another program. And this is something said, the finest wine for the finest friend, for the finest voice, Will Scarlett and Robin Hood. And it's dedicated to my grandfather. From Malcolm Macmillan, voice teacher. Another photo of my grandfather. And Robert Z. Rowell on his 65th birthday. So that's my my grandpa there. I'm right there, and my grandmother. And I'm not sure who the rest of them are. It's my grandpa receiving a safety award from the insurance company. Yeah, that's him at work. He worked for an insurance company. Remember, what was it I told you about being a roll and knowing how to fish? Yeah, there and there. That was a big part of my years growing up, was going fishing with all of them. Look at all those fishing pictures. Yeah, they really love the fishing. Here's some more passport photos. 1962, 1967. 1972. Okay, so that's Edwin, Galen, and my grandfather. So yeah, they're there all together. In fact, if you look closely, my grandpa's holding a Yosemite book, and actually so is Galen. It's one of his photo books. That one isn't marked, but that's clearly my grandmother and grandfather. This is another one of those reproductions of their wedding photo for their 50th wedding anniversary. Let's see. Some of these documents are sticking together here, so. Yeah, more of the 50th wedding anniversary. I went to that, so it was fun to go to that. Ugh. My grandmother eating something. Apparently she felt she needed 2 forks. That's a photo of my uncle in his military uniform, 1963. Nothing behind that one. My uncle is also an avid wrestler. He used to be a referee, and even to this day is still very active in wrestling. He participates in the wrestling program at his college. So That's a photo from 1975 with him refereeing a couple of wrestlers. I think we saw that one before. That's my grandfather in one of his opera roles. And him as an opera villain. That's kind of cool. And photo of my grandmother from, must have been one, she was living in a senior assisted home at the end of her life, and I think this must have been after her husband passed away, after Grandpa Rowell died. And because I think so, just because I see she's with her walker, and so I suspect this is probably some sort of an outing that they had with some of her friends. Nothing back there. Another fun photo with my grandparents on my mom's side. This is some really, really old photos of Emma Zbatowski and Edwin and Robert. So that's my grandfather. I'm assuming that's him on the right, and his brother Edwin and their mother. And then Robert and Edwin again, and yet again. There's a newspaper article of my mom announcing her engagement. So that was in the local Babbitt newspaper. Here's another, okay, so this is Edwin and Catherine. Edwin is, remember, my grandfather's brother and his wife getting married in 1934. And that's my grandfather right there in the middle. And that would be Edwin and his wife on the left. Now this looks like a review of one of their performances. I was scanning through this a little earlier trying to look for names. I didn't see any, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. I'm guessing that they wouldn't have included. Oh yeah, I see Robert Rowell right there. Robert Rowell's sonorous bass belongs very properly to the part of, he also acts with gusto. Yeah. So yeah, apparently he got a good review. Let's see if there's anything in there about my grandmother. Probably is, but I just haven't found it yet. And there's him in that role in costume. That's a kind of a cool publicity shot, right? And a photo of them from 1987. And Jesse and Adolf Zbatowski, the wedding photo. I don't know when that is, but it looks like it's older and older, you know, when they were older. So, and I think this is maybe the same couple on the reverse side here. Get the camera to focus for me a little bit. There we go. So yeah, I think that's the same photo, or the same couple. Emma Piker, a couple photos of her. That may or may not be my grandfather. It may just be somebody that, another family member that looks like him. That one says November 1940, but it doesn't really list who it is. Maybe it's on the back. Okay, so that's Emma Piker, and that is also Emma Piker. So I'm not sure which one of them is which. This one's kind of cool. This one is Adolf Zbatowski had a kind of a general store, and that's his wife in the store, behind the counter. Vaclav and Anna Zbatowski. It's a couple pictures of Anna, different stages of her life, I guess. I was looking at this. I'm not sure what the relevance of this one is. It might just be something that my grandparents participated in, but doesn't appear to be any pictures of them. I don't think the guy on the left is my grandfather. I don't think so. I'm not sure who that is. But here's Vaclav and Anna Zbatovsky again. So as you can see, I got a lot of really great stuff. I got to continue thumbing through all this and figuring out who all these people are and how they're all related to each other. But you can tell how excited I was to get all that. I knew that was coming, but I didn't expect anything like that. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's just kind of a little look into, you know, my family history. It's maybe even a little bit more interesting to me maybe than to anyone else. But it was fun to kind of look at some of those old pictures and old newspaper clippings and stuff like that. And I definitely need to do what I can to preserve all of this and save it for the future. A lot of this stuff, you know, is really in bad shape. And so what I did is I went out and bought a bunch of sheet protectors, and I'm going to put this stuff into a 3-ring binder, and hopefully that'll keep it in good shape for years to come. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.